Okay, today let's get into how to hack cholesterol. I've got 6 diet or nutrition supplements you should be getting on right now, and I've also got 4 lifestyle hacks that you should implement into your life if you found yourself in this position where your doctor says you have high cholesterol and they want to put you on statins. Okay, let's get right into it. Number 1, I've got CoQ10. Now, CoQ10 is a antioxidant that you can use to help stimulate ATP. What is ATP? ATP is simply energy that your body makes. We all know that. So if we can increase our ATP or our energy cells in our body, then we can make more energy effortlessly. It's easier in our body. It helps us fight those stresses and any free radical damage. So this is hugely important, especially when you think of our heart as a energy source, right? So CoQ10. Number 2, I've got L-carnitine. L-carnitine is a supplement that is known for helping shuttle fatty acids from the heart across the cell membranes. Now, why is that important? Because the heart uses fat as fuel. So if we can take those fatty acids and actually shuttle them across cell membranes to the energy pool so that the heart can actually use that energy, then it's just going to make it a lot easier on our body, and it'll just be easier so that we can actually get that energy, right? So L-carnitine is the next big supplement you want if you find yourself with high cholesterol. Number 3, D-ribose. Now I put D-ribose here because there was a study done by a man named Dr. Roberts, who's a cardiologist, and he found that by supplementing with D-ribose, his patients who had severe heart failure suffered less problems. They had more energy, they were able to breathe better, and it also is shown as a mitochondrial stimulant. So D-ribose is my 3rd recommendation. Number 4. Oh my god, I just ripped off the entire thing. It's here you go. If you can't see in the camera, it's vitamin D with K2. Now, vitamin D alone has shown to help with pretty much everything, right? We've seen it with cancer, heart failure, overall longevity. They found that people that have died pretty soon in their lives, they're kind of a short life, they found that that they suffered with extremely low vitamin D levels. Now, of course, we want to supplement with vitamin D, but the easiest way to get vitamin D in your diet is going outside. And let's face it, most of us are on our cell phones all day, and we're in our house, and we're exposed to this junk light that is just screwing up our circadian rhythms, and we're never outside anymore. So go outside, take your shirt off if you can, and get 20 minutes of sun so that your body can actually convert the vitamin D into something called vitamin D sulfate, and your body can actually use it. Supplementing is great if you can't get it. You can get vitamin D from a supplement form. You can get it also from certain fish oils. What you do with your vitamin D, once you get it, you need to also supplement with K2. There's a lot of supplements, like the one that I use is by Thorne, and it has vitamin D with K2 in it. Why? Well, K2 has been shown to help with arterial calcification. So it actually takes the calcium in the arteries and shuttles it out. Otherwise, it's going to get stuck there, and you're going to have a lot of calcification in your arteries, which we don't want. So vitamin D and K2. Let's see what number 5 is. Number 5, I wrote down bilberry. Bilberry is it's like a berry, so it's an antioxidant. And the reason I wrote this is not something you actually hear common, but recent studies have shown that it helps decrease your LDL particle size. And LDL is that low density lipoprotein, which is essentially what clogs your arteries, and which is why a lot of times they put you on statins. So the reason I put bilberry is it actually also helps with blood sugar. And what we found is that a lot of people that have issues with cholesterol are having issues with insulin spikes and their sugar going up and down. And a lot of times you call these people diabetics. So if we can kind of help regulate sugar, we can probably also kind of help regulate cholesterol. One of the big problems that what happens in our modern medical world is that when we have a problem such as cholesterol, we just simply target the problem. You have cholesterol? Here's a pill, take cholesterol. Same thing, like, for example, if you hurt your knee, better yet, if you experience knee pain, what's the first thing you do? You immediately start massaging the knee, you put ice on the knee because you think that your knee hurts because your knee is the problem. when in reality it usually never is. You're not going to the source of the problem or the root of the matter. The most common thing for knee pain is it's something to do with either your hip or your ankle. So a lot of times when people relieve or treat those injured areas, they experience a lot less pain on the knee because the knee is taking the brunt of it. So it's the same thing here with Bellberry. We're actually helping regulate sugar or insulin levels, and when insulin spikes, we see cholesterol levels being affected from those insulin spikes. Certain enzymes and hormones are being regulated differently. So Bellberry. And my last one, number 6, is niacin. Niacin is actually, it's a B vitamin, and what it'll do is it'll help flush all those LDL particles out of your system and actually kind of help expand your blood vessels. This was actually prescribed to me about 5 years ago when I had a blood test done through Wellness FX, which was a comprehensive panel that looked at all the small particles in my vessels. And the doctor actually recommended to me was niacin. So he didn't recommend statins. He said, okay, overall you look pretty good, but your LDL was a little high, so here's take some niacin, and that should help flush out some of those fatty triglycerides or any of those bad fats that we have. So those are the 6 supplements that I've written down if you find yourself to have high cholesterol and your doctor wants to put you on statins. Now let's get into some of the lifestyle hacks. All right, number 1 lifestyle hack. Eat high fat. I bet you didn't think that. You probably thought that's what got me into this mix, and that's where you're wrong. See, the problem is we've been tricked into thinking that saturated fat is bad for us. That's why we have all these things like low-fat cottage cheese, low-fat yogurt, low-fat milk, skim milk, when in reality, fat is actually good for us. Now, there's certain kind of fats you do want to avoid, such as those trans fats or oxidized fats, which I'll get into later. However, eating a high-fat diet is actually been shown to be very good for you. Your body uses fat as fuel, and it uses it very efficiently, which is why you hear people on these ketosis-style diets, right? Which is like 80% fat, and the other 10, 20% is protein, and then maybe you have like very little carbohydrates, like 15, 20 grams. So eating high-fat diet so that your body can run efficiently, so you can be an smooth oil machine. Now, having said that, if you eat a high-fat diet, that doesn't mean you also eat a high-carb diet. So go ahead and do your own research as far as ketosis-style diets, and you'll see that they've reduced cancer and tumor growths and all kinds of things. But we do like fat. Fat's good. Just what kind of fat you're putting in your body. So remember that. Number 2, exercise. Of course, why wouldn't you? I think this is obvious, but if you didn't know, you need to exercise. And when I mean exercise, I don't mean jump on an elliptical machine for 60 minutes. There's a new book out called The Cardio Myth. I suggest you get it, and it'll tell you all about how doing this elliptical crap for 60 minutes is really not beneficial to your body, right? If you think about the primal man, we were in caves, wherever, walking constantly throughout the day, right? We weren't so very sedentary, but we did rest. And then there were times when we had to sprint to get away from a lion, a tiger, a bear. So you want to be thinking about maybe doing some intermittent sprinting or some kind of intermittent burst training known as HIIT training, high intensity interval training. And these kind of things are the things that are going to help actually increase your mitochondria, right? They call it mitochondrial biogenesis, which is just a fancy word for making new mitochondria. And that helps also kill off some of the old cells and bring in the new. So look for something like Tabata style or some kind of burst training to increase mitochondria, increase your energy levels, and build new cells, build new power plants, right? Number 3, I wrote down eat your greens, right? Obvious again, but most of us aren't getting enough greens, and some of us even just put a tablespoon of a green powder in. While that's great, it's probably not sufficient enough. Most of your diet should probably be plant-based with some fats. So we want to be thinking, bok choy. Arugula was one of the highest in nitrates. And why is nitrates important? Because when it's broken down into our body, it's actually converted into nitric oxide. Why do we care about nitric oxide? Well, I don't know if you guys remember, but the Nobel Prize winner, who discovered nitric oxide, he's the same person who discovered Viagra or created Viagra. And what does Viagra do? It increases nitric oxide in the lower region of males so that they can perform better. So nitric oxide is a hugely beneficial thing that we need in our system. So all kinds of greens, name it broccoli, bok choy. Another one to increase nitric oxide that's not a green would be beets. That's another one. People are using it for athletic performance because it widens the blood vessels and releases NO, nitric oxide. So eat your greens. And last but not least, number 4, I mentioned it earlier and I wrote down vegetable oils and sugar. And I think everybody knows don't eat sugar, but not a lot of people are focused on the vegetable oils. And that is becoming more of an issue or more of a problem now than sugar alone. So sugar, again, we alluded to earlier about how it's spiking insulin, and what it's essentially doing is, imagine your blood vessels like a sponge, right? Or the red blood cell as a sponge. And what sugar it does to the sugar is it sops up the sugar, and then instead of being soft like a sponge, it hardens and becomes a mushy blob. And that's what's going on in your arterial lining, is these blood cells are becoming sticky and gluing to each other because of things like sugar. And the same thing is happening with these oxidized oils that many of us are still putting in everything we eat. If you look at a bag of chips, which I just recently looked at a brand that I like, it's got vegetable oils in it. It's organic style chips with cottonseed oil, safflower seed oil, sunflower oil. All these vegetable oils become oxidized, and essentially the antioxidants are stripped from them, and our body just doesn't use them well. And it's the same thing, we get that arterial calcification in our system. Most of us are cooking with these things. Canola oil, that's popular even in these high-end Napa restaurants that people are going to. So you need to be very mindful of what oils you use. If I were you, you could use just simply water. Olive oil I wouldn't really recommend at high heats. Maybe like a coconut oil or a ghee would be better. So you need to start looking at vegetable oils. This is a big one that's been looked at. And again, something we always forget. A lot of us will remember sugar. We'll remember to lower the intake of sugar, but we're not thinking about vegetable oils. And they're in everything. Again, organic. Look at all your organic foods, and they might be snuck in there. Okay, so those are our tips for how to lower or hack cholesterol and remove yourself from statins. I'll see you next week.